Good afternoon. I guess I've got the enviable position of having the third remote intake talk in a row here. Thanks for having me. My name is Seale. I'm with the Kodiak Regional Aquaculture Association. I'm with the Pillar Creek Hatchery. I've been there since 2010. Pillar Creek Hatchery was designed as a central incubation facility at first, but things have changed. We're now more of a incubation and rearing facility, and we've been branching out into other projects. I hope you guys don't mind a light on the text and heavy on the notes. By this time of the day, the pictures should be good. All of our egg takes can be considered remote egg takes. We don't actually do any egg collection at the facility itself. I can't see the ocean, and I don't have a lake with fish in it. So pretty much everything we do is away from the hatchery site itself. I decided today that I present on our sockeye projects. And we also use the Department of Fish and Game sockeye culture manual as a guideline for all of our procedural egg takes. Like I said, I decided today to talk about our remote sockeye egg takes. It seemed fitting. You can see both of our projects here. We do coho and king egg collections away from the hatchery as well. Our eggs from our rainbows are sent from English. These pictures here show both of our campsites. The one on the left is at Frontenac Lake, and the one on the right is at the Sultry Lake system. You can see the little tents there. And the weir site is also in this area. The weir site is downstream from the Frontenac camp there. Sultry is about 16 miles off the Kodiak Road system, and Frontenac Lake is about 40 miles from Kodiak City by plane. We camp on an island in the back of the lake there. We have to get everything in by plane for a Frontenac, and we take a four-wheeler in by trail to Sultry. Hell, we move gear around. The plane has to land over here at the lake mouth, so we move our entire camp into here by four-wheeler, and also expands the recreational fishing area available for our staff. Which is always good. Pillar Creek provides luxury accommodations for their field camp staffs, and that's indicated here by the tarp over the outhouse.
I phoned it home recruiting.
That's all right, my crew's full. I got it. This is a campsite at Frontenac Lake. We use a couple of tents, electric fence. Of course, Kodiak Archipelago is known for its large bears, so we put up a gill net. But it seems to help out. We haven't had any real huge problems with bears in any of our sites yet. We do camp on an island in the lake. You can see it here out of the plane. We've named this island a fog gnat based on its native populations. So we spend a little bit of time there. The egg take and staging site is just across from the island, just about a minute boat ride away. Here's living the good life. This is the Sultry camp. Once again, we use weatherport tents. We transport out our weatherport tents, but both sites we have a platform for our sleeping tents. Keeps the moisture down and the living conditions a little cleaner. You might not be able to tell by the picture. Plenty of sand and dirt makes it back to the camp. Of course, everyone wears their boots. Double tents helps keeping the food out of the sleeping tent, which is always making it more comfortable on these projects. The brood collection crews are made up of 3 or 4 team members, and they're led by the hatchery assistant manager. Logistically, they're challenging, like all remote operations are. We try to get re-up the food and the fuel for these camps when we're switching out crew or bringing on egg gear or things like that. That's worked out pretty well for us. Each egg take is 5 or 6 flights, so some flights at the beginning and during the camp, it's not bad. Each camp goes for between 2 and 4 weeks. I spent a week out at Sultry this year. It was a lot like this right here. And, really nice evenings and great fishing. And sometimes I wonder why I didn't stay a technician. These are my boots right there. Concentrating on the Frontenac Lake Early Run Sockeye project. Good weather is always a must for egg cake days for us. I don't do the 2-day thing. It's too scary for me. And we've actually cut our egg cake short, brought the planes in, brought everybody home, just to make sure the eggs get home. I'd rather do a separate egg take than try to do that. Just looks here. This is Kodiak City here, of course, beautiful scenery. This is the Litnick Weir. Litnick Weir leads to a Fogneck Lake. This weir trap is set up and operated jointly by KRAA and the Department of Fish and Game each year. The weir is staffed by a couple of people all summer. They do smolt in the spring, and then they keep it in place for the sockeye run to enumerate fish into the lake for our escapement. All of our brood requirements each year change. All of our stocking recommendations are given to us each year by the Department of Fish and Game based on modeling for juvenile feed available in our stocking lakes. So we keep people out there to enumerate the brood into the lake. We've had some recent budget cuts. They were counting polo and some other fishing in the lake later on in the fall. That's been discontinued. But this system is basically for both of our brood projects, basically the same. We are in a trap and enumeration, and then all of our brood is based on the escapement into those. We do have some backup brood sources. I don't think we've gone to the early run backup brood source since 2005 when Gary Bird was there at Plymouth Creek. And luckily enough, Sultry has met its escape levels each year for our projects. So here's a little overview of what we've been doing the last couple of years at Fogneck. We've talked with this project, we stock fry exclusively. In the last 2 years, we've stocked 377,000 fry just by taking almost 1.8 million eggs. It's been a very difficult time with this project. When I got to Plymouth Creek in 2009, average lake temperatures were 10 or 12 degrees, and like everyone else has been saying in this room, we've had extremely warm temperatures, and now the average has been 18 to 20 degrees in the lake for brood collection and holding. That's made things a little more difficult. In the earlier years of this program, these fish were stocked as fry and then also as fall pre-smolt and into the same lakes. Later on in the year, late September, October, just to help with the limnologic impact on the lakes where they're stocked. We've discontinued the pre-smolt now. I use that rearing area for our lake run sockeye smolt project. Once again, we're doing lake seining with the crew at 3. This year here, pictured, you can see that these are brood pens that we're throwing around on our boat in the lake. Those are 10 by 10. They break down and fit into a diagonal beaver, so we can take them out with the DVD, break them down, take them back to the hatchery, and use them in the next project when we need it. It's a small creek here, and you can see that the water is not that deep in places. That crew there. There's a large flat in front of the creek mouth, and that can make for some interesting seining conditions. But we get it done, love dragging the net around, and get them out into some deeper water, and we store them in deeper water as well. This camp goes in at the end of July, usually takes about 3 weeks. So about the 3rd week of July, come home 1st week of August. Side note, first time we've ever taken sockeye eggs in July was this past year, 2016. Instead of holding the brood after we collected it and seining, I went to just evaluating the brood and doing an egg take rather soon. We've had a lot of brood holding loss at this project due to temperature. So, like Sherry does there, we round about did an egg take this year and had some relative success with that. The Sultry Lake Run Sockeye project. You can see here we also get a fair amount of bears, which are at Sultry Lake there, a relatively small lake. Sultry is an unusually diverse system. It supports rainbow trout, Dolly Varden, and it's also the southernmost male population of Arctic char in Alaska, so great fishing there. It also supports sockeye, pinks, chums, and coho salmon, so plenty of fish in there. The creek is only a couple of miles between the lake and the ocean, so a relatively short run and a lot of access. There's a lot of fishing pressure for people that come out from town into the Sultry. They're usually required to fish below the weir, and so once the fish pass through the weir and are enumerated for our brood, they pass into Sultry Lake, and they spawn in the ephemeral stream, once again called Lake Creek. Go figure how many of those are here in Alaska, I'm not sure. But we seine at the mouth of Lake Creek for this project. This project we're doing between 2 and 3.5 million fry each year, and between 400,000 and 650,000 spring smolt. So we had some problems in 2015. The ephemeral stream into the lake dried up about a mile from the lake, and so that made seining difficult. We moved down to the lake mouth and found a seat running out from underneath the sand with quite a few fish congregating there. We were able to complete our seining after a lot of extended effort and sets in the lake mouth, down the creek, scaring fish up the creek and into the seine. It was quite a year. 2016, brood collection was much easier. We did have more steady rains. We had our brood collected and in our holding pens, and the creek did dry up again. But we got some rain between intakes and we were able to collect some additional brood after the dry up. And that's something that nobody has ever seen before, as far as the lodge that's been out on Sultry Lake for many, many years, and the guys that have been out there and people around Kodiak have seen that system dry up. We use these fish from this project in several different ways. We stock them as fry, and we also hold them as ocean imprinted smolt in the spring. Barry Byrne here, acting as the nice anchor back in the day, doing some lake seining in Sultry Lake. Successful seining crew here. Of course, we fly all of our equipment and everything else in there, and food, fuel, personnel, and everything else. Although it is hooked up with a trail to town, not very practical going back and forth over the mountain pass with a four-wheeler. This smolt component of this is something that we started at Pillar Creek back in 2011. We're holding sockeye smolt in outdoor raceways. We've also held them in the lake with lake rearing over the winter. And we've stocked 3 locations with those fish, although now that's been condensed down just to Tall Rock Cove. And that's also the terminal harvest area for Pillar Creek Hatchery. It's the outlet of Spirited Lake where we put the fry in, so the fry reside in the lake for the summer and the winter, pass through a smolt trap, which is pretty amazing, down through a half-a-mile pipeline, down into the creek, and they come out at Tall Rock Cove, and then we're also imprinting our smolt there, which is a whole other topic I can talk about for hours. A video here, so it's working, that's good. Heads or doves. So this, we're putting together the pens. We're seining and holding brood in pens like we've seen in the other. Ours are 10 by 10 by 10. Densities differ by temperature and what I'm feeling like, and the brood and what our project goals are. I'm sorting for ripeness here. Assembling the pens is pretty much what we do the very first day after we get out. Get some pens put together, get a running line put out. We do have permanent anchors in the lake that we use each year to run running lines to attach our brood pens to. And permanent is quotational there, sometimes not so permanent depending on the winter ice and other things. So making a 500-pound anchor on the side of the lake is always a joy. Seining and sorting takes place at the creek mouth, and we tow them about 400 yards to their running lines closer to the egg take site. Weather is always a factor for egg take timing. I'm sure that anybody here that does remote projects is watching the weather as close as I can. Getting the crew out and back and the eggs for us is pretty necessary. And having 1 million eggs to spend the night on the beach, as well as your crew, is something that is not very fun to deal with. I want to share my scaredness on that. So we've cut it subject too short, and have brought everybody home due to weather, and just had to do further goals on some of our other intakes. Brood holding, same kind of operation as we've seen from everybody else. You can see here the running line coming out from shore with the brood holding pens on it, both at Sultry and at Fogneck Lake. And also I included a slide here, which is called How to Get Ahead in Aquaculture. Which is do work well, everyone. This is Sam Rainbow here with his hands in his pockets. And this is me working behind him. You're going to want to have a shelter, so we also don't have a building at any of these sites. We invest in good tarps. We want to get some good shade to keep the rain out the eggs. So we build this shelter each year at Fogneck Lake. We leave this ridge line in place and make this shelter here. And we stash shelves and some other stuff in the woods there. And we're allowed to by the native corporation also at Sultry Lake. This is the setup here. All of our equipment has to go in, of course, just like everybody else. We create our UV water on site. The spawning racks and tables are brought up from town. Cruise 11 is about what works for a really great egg take. Unfortunately, I employ 7 other people. So and I'm in charge of getting volunteers for each of our egg takes. We fly everybody out, give them a sandwich for the day. They get a chance to help out. We get people from the community. It works out pretty well. I enjoy having people from the community at egg takes, although it can be a little bit of extra training. We've tried egg takes in the 700 to 750 hen range. That's a little bit much for us. I prefer 500 fish a day for the size crew that we have. Sultry is budgeted for 3 egg takes each year, and we used them last year to get all the eggs we needed. We also took and provided the toy bay hatchery with 750,000 eyed eggs last year. They did not have a successful brood return, so we were able to provide them with our eggs from Sultry as well. When we're doing our egg takes, each brood pen is tracked for ripeness, and the number of fish we use and the number of fish that are left, all the regular data you want to use. Spawn, rinse, repeat, just like everybody else, individual bulls, out there doing it down and dirty. We create all of our processed water on site, either rinse water with betadine, or we have a small UV system that we've made out of Gary made it out of a wastebasket and some PVC plumbing, and it runs on a 12-volt battery. You can see it here in the background. We can just dump water into the wastebasket. It runs down through the PVC piping. It comes down into this barrel-treated UV water, betadine barrels. We're going to transport all of our eggs back to town in coolers. Each cooler is tagged with a number of hens. We do call, just like Jay does at Main Bay, for a number of bad eggs. We use plastic bags of burlap with ice in the bottom of the coolers to keep the eggs cool. And we keep them in order. On sunny days, we do have silverback tarps. We'll cover up those coolers, try to keep them as cool as possible while we're waiting for the planes to come in the afternoon. It's pretty easy. We do natural carcass disposal. Make a little barge out of our boat here, line it with a tarp and a board, throw all our morts in there, take it away from the egg take and brood holding site out of the lake, just toss them back into the lake to be utilized naturally. It's a nice picture of the egg take site here. Always try to put our shelter as close to the lake as possible, keep the runners running, and keep the fish moving through the room. Plus, at that point, it's a great opportunity to feed some Arctic char, some eggs in the discard pile there. They come right up into the short egg take, and you can see 18, 20-inch Arctic char right off the beach. Take them back to the hatchery, load bags of eggs into the incubators for tempering. I don't try to cool them as much as everybody else. We have warm water temperatures, and so I like 70 to 75 hens per incubator. And when we do egg processing, that gives me just about the right amount of that I like for our little market process. I have a short video here. Hopefully, that'll wrap it up. So this has some audio. I don't know if that works on here. It's a short video that a girl that was working at the toy bay made for us for a remote egg take. You can see here, sorting the fish out of the pens, killing by hand. This is an egg take at Little Toy Lake. It's a backup broodstock for our lake run sockeye, and it's the main broodstock source for Toy Bay hatchery. So dumping the fish, betadine first. There's that spooky egg take site you can't see off of there at all. You get bears walking right up into there. Site is pretty cool. Same thing, activation, give her a swirl, suns are up. We batch our coolers. I like the 25 pins per cooler, makes the math easy and just about right for transport back to the hatchery. If we have a couple of calls, that doesn't hurt my things that much as well. We use those fryer covers for decanting the bowls of eggs for the limit the beta dye. You can see here it's snowing at the same tape as well. And throw them all back in. There it is. Prettiest words in the English language, classic fish. All right. Any questions?